Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. To make the proper alteration in order to recustomize the psychological state of the black mind, black educators, psychologists, scientists, and doctors of holistic medicine must first access the proper tools for undertaking the task at hand. Second, in breaking the curse of Willie Lynch, the black masses must come to grips with the reality that we have been thinking about ourselves as black people from the basis and format of an adversary, foreign in spirit, mind, body, and in nature. Expounding on the warning that the slave-making letter, which in its contents gave credibility to some of the possible interloping negatives documented surrounding the mental history of the black, once physical slave, which is relative to the recorded history of the black man and woman brought into slavery upon the shores of North America, is the overwhelming shock to the natural conscious mind brought about by such an energy draining loss of the historical mind's database. What was the psychological basis for the Eurocentric, the no, not Eurocentric, the Eurocentered psychologists, fearing the unraveling of their indoctrination? No. What was the psychological basis for the Eurocentered psychologists fearing the unraveling of their indoctrination of the black slave? This fear was and is still based upon black people affected by this doctrine gaining back a substantial original historical base, which is due to the fact that they obtained the knowledge of self. Their intuitive memory and natural faculties would be reactivated, and all of the genetic potential would become fully accessible. Let us review Mr. Willie Lynch's slave psychologist definition of the word phenomenon. According to their definition based on our condition, phenomenon means something rare, an occurrence beyond ordinary observation, and inspires awe and wonder. Based on a previous quote by Senator Henry Berry in 1832, while addressing the Virginia House of Delegates, we have extinguished every avenue by which light could enter into the mind of the black slave. If we could extinguish their capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would then be on a level with the beast of the field, and we would be safe. I am not certain that we would not do it if we could find out the process, and that on the plea of necessity. Okay, carrying on. Well, this is back to the book. Well, according to the slave masters in the past and the present generation of oppressors, what has been and is occurring in this country concerning black men and women whose minds have been activated based on an exposure to literature and scholarship of our great historical heritage can be classified as a phenomenon. Inclusive of the historical database of every culture are the medical healing arts, sciences, and health traditions. What is more distinct to one's cultural than the foods that its constituents depend upon for daily sustenance. Nothing. Food is the substance of the life made from the same earth elements comprising human life. These are especially important in the function of the mind, unlocking dormant mental, physical, and even spiritual potential. Subhanallah. Reflecting upon the hygiene and dietary circumstances on the plantation scene, as well as the present moment for many blacks as a collective, we must be mindful of the condition of the black man and woman's health. The present diet that nearly 80% of black people consume is comprised of the same foods we were forced to eat during the 4 centuries of forced servitude to white plantation slave owners. Very little has changed since those days except that physical exercise has become a voluntary activity in the daily life of our people. Today, outside of college and professional sports, required physical educational classes, most of us, due to the lack of health awareness, begin to take the bodily journey downhill. Comprising a list of all of the foods that were made a part of the black slave's diet upon being introduced to new life on the plantation, foods like pinto beans, lima beans, and black-eyed peas that are overloaded with acid and destructive to the digestive system. Other basics are the leafy greens like mustard, turnips, and collard greens, which the black men and women are of today consume on a regular basis. The consumption of leafy green foods that are highly concentrated in vitamin K, which is the active ingredient responsible for the production of blood clots. Excessive vitamin K is the silent enemy to the circulatory system due to the fact that it thickens the blood, puts a strain on the veins and arteries. Not to mention that excessive vitamin K in the blood is in a large measure responsible for so many of the strokes and high blood pressure that black people suffer from. These are some of the foods that we are accustomed to calling soul food, which in truth demotes the body's balance.